Now last here, verses 9 and 10. First, in verse 9, he gives us here a promise. He says, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap." Now he's carrying on the same concept of reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing by doing good, and then he says, "We shall reap if we do not lose heart or faint in the way." Now this is the Christian responsibility to sow good to others. Now this principle, I believe, is so simple and yet so profound. It's something that we don't even many times think about in our daily life. But doing good to someone else is only going to encourage, bless, build up, strengthen someone else, correct? When you do good to someone, you're going to serve them, you're going to help them, you're going to love on them, you're going to encourage them, you're going to help them in whatever need they have. And what is the result of that? Well, you're going to reap. Sometimes you reap immediately. You reap just the blessing of the joy in your own heart because you've done something that's good. Other times, you won't see what you're going to reap because it will be an eternal reward. Sometimes it's not an eternal reward. Sometimes it's just way down the road. But that issue, that thing that you've done to bless somebody, it does come back in your direction. The Lord blesses you, and He uses sometimes that very person to turn around and bless you. And so when you reach out to someone that is falling, go back to the beginning of this chapter. Somebody who's overtaken in a fault, and you go out of your way to reach out to that person, to call them, go see them, go lift them up. Do you know how many times in my ministry I have heard where that person turns around and then rescues the very person that rescued them? Do you know how many times I've heard that? It's amazing. That's one of these examples of how the person that you've rescued turns around and blesses you, loves you, lifts you up, encourages you. And sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes a lot longer time, others it's an eternal reward. But you will reap. Now notice here he says, "If we do not lose heart." Now this is important because many times that's exactly what happens in doing good. I have lost heart many times. You just get weary in your soul and you just go, "I don't know whether I want to do this anymore." Haven't you gotten to that place? Or especially, when you reach out to someone and then they turn around and burn you, and they burn you bad. And you just say, "Man, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to reach out like that. I'm not going to help people like that anymore." And you harden up inside. That is you're fainting in the middle of your walk. And so you have to be very careful about this issue of fainting and really losing heart. Now, how do you not lose heart? Well, you have to be a man or a woman of prayer. It says in Luke 18:1, Jesus said, he spoke a parable to them that men always ought to pray and not lose heart. Prayer is that which keeps you in connection with the Lord, where you can be filled, where you can be strengthened. That's going to keep you from losing heart. Secondly, you need to make sure that you not stop feeding on the Word or you faint. If you stop drinking water or stop eating food, what physically happens to you? After a couple of days, you're going to feel pretty faint physically. The same thing is true spiritually. When you stop praying, you stop getting into the Word, you stop eating the Word of God, feasting on his word. Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God." Essential. Thirdly, you don't faint by obeying a very simple exhortation in Isaiah 40. There in verses 28 through 31, there the Spirit of God inspired Isaiah to say these words. He said, "Have you not known, have you not heard, the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth? He neither faints nor is weary." Now that's important because he never faints or is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might he increases strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. They shall run and not be weary. I'll tell you, that is because you experience strength from the Lord. And that's where you need to go, especially tonight. You know, some of you might be weary in well-doing, in doing good to others. And if you are, you need to be men and women of prayer. You need to wait on the Lord for his strength. You need to stay in the Word, because that will always bring you back. That's what softens my heart. That's what softens your heart and changes your attitude so that you get back in the game and you get on the road and you start moving down the road again. Very important principle.